Hey, what's up, everybody? BDO44 coming at you with another video. All right, so good news around the league, not so great news. I guess I'll start with the bad news since most people say give me the bad news first. I don't know. James Bouknight got arrested for something. Don't know what it is. Don't want to speculate, but he got in a little trouble. This is yet another Charlotte Hornet in some trouble. So pieces are just flying off of their team left and right. It's just, I mean, they're being backed into a tank year just off of the situations that their players are being, kind of find themselves involved in. So that's the latest there. So yeah, not so great news there. But my humble opinion is he should not be waived because he is a very, very young, highly talented player on a rookie contract. And if he gets waived and picked up by some random team, they're going to find out how talented he is. He's a lottery pick, and he was only drafted last year, and he hasn't had a role at all with Charlotte because they got a bunch of guards in front of him. So he's a best kept secret kind of player who's going to have to work through his progressions as a young guy. But he 5-6 years from now, if he doesn't ruin his opportunity, I fully expect him to be a starter in this league. So yeah, that's the type of upside James Bouknight has in my mind, and I just feel like it's a young guy making whatever decision. We'll find out what the details are and then know how to go about saying whatever. But it is what it is, man. So I just don't think Charlotte should cut him. No. Especially with what they have going on. Depending on what it is he did, if it ain't too serious, do not cut him, is what I would say. So that's one thing. The next thing I want to kind of share, even though I don't have the framework in my head, I saw it this morning. Congratulations are due to Michael Porter Jr. Kevin Porter. It's Kevin Porter Jr. I'm trying to figure out how to get those names mixed up, but Kevin, who was able to re-sign with the Houston Rockets this morning, 4-year deal. So we're very happy to see that he's locked up for some time and doesn't have to worry about being moved on. Because I was wondering if that was going to happen, given the fact that we saw DeJounte Murray traded. We were wondering if he was kind of in the same boat in terms of they probably saw him as a young player that they didn't want to pay, so maybe they'd move on from, but they did not make that mistake. And I do believe that was a mistake if they would have done that. So getting him and locking him up somewhere in the 80+ mil, I think, range, I think is smart because he's going to play that up. If you give him the type of role that he's capable of having, you got to think in mind that he's been playing with a lot of guards over the last several years. Just like we've been talking about how players, we use as an example, often, what's the guy's name? Jonathan Isaac. We used him as an example as somebody who may not be able to have a better role going forward with the team he's on because of the players that have been drafted since he got hurt. I think Kevin Porter's in an absolutely opposite situation. I think Kevin Porter has a much bigger role coming forward with the Rockets than he's had in the past because there's no John Wall, there's no Dennis Schroeder, and now it's just about him being the point guard, leading the way. It's his. The team around him is a little older. The team around him is a lot better given what they just did in the draft. And I think it's fit for him to not have to share any minutes with anybody at all. I mean, he has backups and stuff like that, but nobody that's looking to take his spot, nobody that's looking to pull 25, 30 minutes off the board from him. So I like it. I like it a lot for his situation in Houston, not only just as it pertains to his career going forward, but of course him getting his family and all that taken care of, squared away, given this his first contract. So congratulations to him, a guy that we saw come in out of the G League 2 years ago and put up some of the best numbers we'd ever seen in the G League. We knew what he was capable of, and now that he's here, he's arrived. I'm glad they got ahead of it. Houston is good at that too. They have a history, because of James Harden, that's who I refer to, of jumping ahead of guys and getting them early. James Harden was the guy because obviously they traded for him and then locked him up at a huge contract, and then he turned into something twice as good as that. So, hopefully they can have that same kind of luck with Kevin Porter and he can develop for them as well. I don't see why not, to be completely honest with you. With his natural talent, he can develop just fine into a big-time player. And, I'm just excited about the Rockets. I was telling you guys I was excited about the Rockets last year. They just picked up two of my favorite rookies. in Terry Eason and Jabari Smith. And that's not even accounting for Ty Washington and some other guys that they got as well. Josh Christopher, guys that they're bringing back from last year, including Porter, including Sengun. I mean, this is going to be, as I told you guys last year, this is going to be one of the best young teams ever assembled. Yeah, Houston Rockets squad. Now that they locked up Porter, they're sure they're not going to lose him. That just solidifies what I have to say. Obviously, Jalen Green hasn't even been mentioned. We know he's going to jump off into a different atmosphere very soon. Yeah, the Rockets are for real. And getting Kevin Porter locked in at that price makes it so that they have a good possibility of signing more of those guys. If he would have signed on for 100, 120, you know, that could have put them out of the runnings for re-signing those people, and that's not acceptable. And at the end of the day, you're going to lose somebody. You can already see that. But in my mind, you got to keep Green, you got to keep Eason, you got to keep Smith, you got to keep Porter. And then you got to talk about Sengun as well. So how do you keep all five? I don't know. If those guys develop to what they're supposed to be, they could all end up $100 million guys. And that takes you out of the cap situation completely. So that's something to look at, man. Keep your eyes on the Rockets. For the short term, they have a super talented team. In the long term, they're going to have to let go of at least one of those people, I think. Which sucks. Bad. But that's the nature of the cap, man. That's what it is. Somebody else got paid too, you guys. I don't remember who it was. I'm waiting for it to come to me. This is why I'm stalling. But somebody else was able to lock up today, and I just don't remember who it was. I apologize. What is popping off in my mind is the fact that the Celtics really do have some nice city uniforms. I got to give them credit. They are celebrating number 6, the great Bill Russell, and the uniform that they're commemorating him with. It looks rich, and I really think it's some of the best uniforms I've seen. Top 30 uniforms maybe ever, honestly, in my mind. And of course, that's relative to a person's opinion, but I just really like the uniforms, unfortunately, since they are the Celtics. I'm a Laker fan. But yeah, just want to put that out there. Good energy to the family of Bill Russell, of course. We got love here for Bill. Yeah, man, I wish it would come to mind. Someone else was able to take care of their family today, man. We love seeing guys get locked up. So if that person comes to mind, of course, I'll make another video. But we know for a fact that Porter was able to get his today as well. So at least we know that much. There's more stuff to say too. Obviously, the NBA season starts tomorrow. And you know, looking at the Wiggins situation, we've already discussed. Wiggins got his 109, I believe it was. Poole, of course, everybody knows Poole is locked up and good to go. Draymond Green, we're keeping an eye on. You know, and just you know, as I said, it's going to be very active over the next several days. Probably today, it's going to be pretty active. Tomorrow, phones are going to be ringing off the hook with teams that are going to be trying to make moves to get guys going and see if they can kind of get ahead of the season starting. So I'm not surprised to see people get signed. You know, that kind of stuff right now. Teams are just loading up. As far as the Lakers are concerned, you know, my emphasis now is for my team to kind of switch their gears in terms of trying to replace some of the centers that we have on our team. I don't even want to get started down a path where we're getting used to players that we have to upgrade from. That's really where I'm at. You know, I see a problem, and I want to stop it before it even gets started. And I just, as a fan, just kind of don't want to even go down the path of having limited players on the floor, asking them to do things that we just are not going to be able to get any success out of asking them doing. And that's just how I feel about our centers right now. I think the stuff that we're running just does not play to their strengths right now. I like what Darvin Ham has been doing in terms of trying to incorporate Damian Jones into what we're doing and asking him to shoot threes. I think it's a little much. But, you know, we just really saw his limitations in a very, very, very definitive way in this past preseason game that just puts me in a space that just redirects my entire thinking as it pertains to what we need to do with our roster in order to win. And so as a Laker fan, that's uncomfortable when you know you're starting the season. It's what Trevor Lane was saying as well. When you know you're starting the season, your team ain't got your starting lineup, you got players on the team you know probably shouldn't be there, etc., etc., it really does not get you off to a good start. And it's important, not just for my team, but for all teams to have some carry over from year to year with a good portion of your talent so that there's some continuity there. Because if you're constantly reshuffling and you constantly got a lot of turnover, you never actually get off to a good start because everybody's learning every single year. And I do agree with him. It gets to a point where we're starting to get typecast, I guess the way you would put it if it were an acting situation, where players want to come here only for a short amount of time to get showcased and then to go off and get another bag somewhere else. I think that's not necessarily exactly how I view it. I think we're kind of in a space where just at this time it makes sense for us to sign 1 year guys because of our timeline. But I think if we were in a different situation, then we would have a different set of players coming for different reasons, I guess is what I'm saying. And this dynamic would be elsewhere where the LeBron James would otherwise be. I guess if that makes any sense. Wherever Bron is, that dynamic's going to take place, I guess is what I'm saying. And there's certain things that just are like that. Like, for example, when we were bad, we knew certain types of players were going to be on our team. We were going to have veterans that were not necessarily very good anymore, or guys who were limited to begin with who were going to be all over the roster. And there was a time where you knew who those names were. And when you got those players, you just understood it was going to be a bad year for you. Yeah, it's that kind of thing too. It's like, some things just signal what it is that you're looking at. And unfortunately, the presence of certain people signal what that actually is. But for the time being, the Los Angeles Lakers, I think where we are, what we want is to just get those 1 year guys, showcase them, because all we're trying to do is do it from year to year to year. We are always looking to be a win now team so long as Bron is on our team. So if we can get those 1 year guys come in, play up their ability because they're trying to get their contract, and that's just going to contribute to our overall team. And while continuity is most important, at the end of the day, this is a short-term process because it is from year to year to year. So at any moment, we can start the process of having that continuity that Trevor's been talking about. So I just think that, when I look at what the Lakers have been doing, we won a championship 2 years ago. It takes some years to build that, and it takes some years to recover from it being broken down. And so I think we're somewhere in between all of that. And we just got to be patient. We can't expect to win a championship every year, and we certainly can't expect for success to be ours at all times. There are other teams who are planning and plotting and getting talent too, and they're going to win too. They're going to put themselves in positions to succeed, and maybe even a couple of them might build up a dynasty or two. Some of that's not within your control as Laker fans, especially when we don't have the biggest pile of money. You know what I mean? As he was talking about. So it is what it is. We've won over the last 2 years, and we know how to do it. And I think we're in a position to build something again. So I'm not unhappy as a fan, and I can look at other situations around the league and I can say, okay, that's a little worse than the Lakers right now. That's a lot worse than the Lakers right now, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what we have is LeBron James. You know what I mean? That is up until this point been the most important thing the NBA has. Now, obviously, you got this new wave of kids coming in, this Wembanyama dude that changes everything for everybody. But at the end of the day, we still got a chance at our championship opportunity. And that's ultimately what we did everything we've done for the last 5 years for. Now, there are a lot of people who are changing their tune or they're starting their 5-year plan now. But we're in ours, so we just got to live with where it's brought us. We got one championship, and we made a couple of mistakes that have kind of kept us away from other championship opportunities. That's where we're at, working from behind the 8 ball because of those mistakes, and it ain't an easy fix. So for those of my Laker fam, I know I've turned this into kind of a Laker video in a way. It's not really about us on this one. It's just more about how your expectations should be for your team in general. When you just won 2 years ago, the last thing your focus should be is bashing the owner for not winning. No, we've won. We just won. And it takes time. You know what I mean? Especially when you're in the presence of the Golden States and all these other teams that are really, really building as well. So look out for the teams that have the money to build with luxury tax money. Look out for the guys that have endless pockets, because they're going to be able to build forward going forward in ways that maybe teams that don't have that kind of money just won't be able to. And so that's not It's not knocking anybody. It's just the presence of what happens when you bring in endless pockets into to your association. That's what we did. When you let Ballmer in, you have endless pockets now in the presence of what was once fair and friendly competition amongst billionaires. Now you got a whale in the mix, and they're talking about bringing Bezos in the mix too. You can't compete with those guys. Let's just be honest. You can't compete with those guys. Even if you're a good, healthy NBA owner, it's a different level of wealth, man. It's a different level of disposable income. You know what I mean? As to where that wasn't the case in the past. You didn't have no Bombers. You didn't have no Bezos. You didn't have no super conglomerate, forever money guys in Silicon Valley with tech money that makes money for money, underneath money, on top of money. It's just It's a new world, and the NBA let those guys in. So now you got to find a way to make it balance out so people can compete with those guys. And they ain't figured that part out yet. So that's where we are. That's what I see. I just see teams like that have the pockets being able to do everything they need to do, and you see a system that's trying to keep them at bay so they don't turn into the damn Yankees. You know what I'm saying? This is what it is. So, hey man, I'm having a lot of fun with it. Like I said, most of the time for me, it's about scouting. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times what guys in those situations are going to do is they're just going to throw their money at a bunch of stuff that ain't going to be what they're paying for. That's what I know. That's what's going to balance it out. It's not about having endless pockets. It's about making sure that the people you have in place are talented, and you get lucky by finding guys who are durable and can do the job. So that's not something that you can just pay your way toward. You can buy a bunch of stuff that's really, really good, but chances are what you end up doing is getting a bunch of guys that you've overpaid who now don't necessarily have the urgency because they all are overpaid, that kind of thing. You end up running into that dynamic. You still need hunger on the team, and that comes from guys who have something to lose. So that dynamic will be in place as we continue to go forward, and I think it'll help balance it out too. So that's pretty much where my head is. I was hoping that person would come back to me, but it hasn't. I got to check it out and probably make a different video. But nevertheless, more movement is to be expected over the next several weeks as the season starts. And I just wish for good health for all the teams, man. Good health for all the teams, and just patience for the fans. We got to be patient. This stuff is not instant rice. You know what I mean? When you're talking about putting together an NBA championship, especially if you have a small market team, you guys gotta get lucky sometimes, as I said, but you also gotta be strategic, and you gotta have good everything in place, including deep pockets. So, if you do get a championship, you gotta celebrate it for longer than just the year you get it, because at the end of the day, it could be a very long time, if ever again, before you see another one. And as a Laker fan, you would think I wouldn't have that understanding, but trust you me, I do. So that's what I gotta say, man. My name is BDF44. I thank you all for watching. I'm out.